maybe Avalon is real, but just because some bad woman tells...
Hello Internet, welcome to Games Done Wrongish. Today we will be taking a look at the first two Xbox Games with Gold titles for January 2018. Happy New Year everyone! The titles we will be looking at in this video are Tomb Raider Underworld and The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing III. Let's get to it! The Tomb Raider games have been around for a long time now, 22 years in fact, with the first Tomb Raider game releasing back in 1996. Wow, boy do I feel old now. Due to the success of the Tomb Raider games, there was a new Tomb Raider game released every year from then on for 4 years straight, ending the run with The Last Revelation. This schedule put a huge strain on the development team at that time, which was Core Design. They were given much longer to work on the next major title labelled The Angel of Darkness. The studio were suffering still from the previous workload and had many issues internally that seemed to continue through the development of Angel of Darkness. Despite managing to pull together and finish the game, it was deemed a failure upon release in 2003. From that point on, Eidos shifted development over to the team at Crystal Dynamics. They were then given 3 years to release the next title, which was labelled Tomb Raider Legend. This catapulted the series back into the limelight. The gameplay had been refreshed and was more akin to what we had been seeing from games like Ubisoft's Prince of Persia series that were also released around this time. Lara now also more closely resembled her movie counterpart Angelina Jolie in this soft revamp. Legend was a success for Lara Croft and Tomb Raider, and as such spawned 2 more games during the next 2 years following, which brings us to this game, Underworld. Crystal Dynamics had been creating these new style Tomb Raider games for around 6 years now and knew very well that they could leverage the sex appeal brought over from Angelina Jolie's movies of the same title. They used that perhaps a little too much in the opening scenes, having Lara in a very revealing diving costume with the zip down very low for some reason. I don't feel it is serving its full purpose in that way, but hey, it sells video games. So, how does it play? Well, it's serviceable for the time it was released. The platforming type mechanics in which you scale rock faces, use a grapple line to swing around, swim and jump your way through the levels is okay. I feel the Prince of Persia games from the same time were much smoother and faster paced in this respect, but they did not have Lara Croft as the main star. As with most Tomb Raider games, the platforming is also joined by eccentric puzzles you need to solve, enemies to shoot and boss type puzzles or fights to overcome. The first of these comes in the form of a kraken guarding the way you need to go. This one is pretty simple and simply requires you to climb your way around the room, finding switches and devices to make it remove its tentacles and grasp on the surrounding room before dropping a rather conveniently placed spiked chandelier type object on its head. I do remember when I played these games back in the day that there was a way to do an elegant swan dive maneuver when you need to dive back in. As I could not remember the button combination, I went with this. I call it the panic chicken dive. Quite proud of it too. As with most games of this nature, once you finally find the item you are trying to steal from the ancient underwater tomb, some big bad or lackey comes along and steals it from you. Lara being Lara, she decides that the best way to deal with this is to board the bad guy's ship and shoot everything in sight to try and get it back, which leads us nicely onto the combat. I am not exactly sure what they are going for here. It's kind of a third-person shooter style combat without an aiming reticle. The older Tomb Raider games never needed an aiming reticle, so why would this one? Instead, when an enemy is close, if you hold the left trigger you auto aim on the closest target, which is then highlighted with a huge red target to let you know that this is your current target. The enemies seem to be able to take a lot of bullets. Far less, however, if you activate Lara's adrenaline ability. This is a bit like the bullet time ability in the Max Payne games. It slows down time a little, and for some reason the same bullets you were shooting prior to activating this now do much more damage per shot. It would make more sense if the adrenaline ability made Lara lock onto the enemy's head for some headshots rather than the torso she has been firing at already, but that is not the case. The game has 31 achievements to collect for a total of 1000 gamer points. The average estimated time to collect them all is anything from 15 to 20 hours. Overall, this is a very serviceable Tomb Raider game. It gave me a huge blast of nostalgia, and even though I feel the new Tomb Raider games are vastly superior these days, this was a very good addition to the franchise back in 2008, 5 years prior to the games we know today. If you are in the mood for an old school Tomb Raider game or never got to play this one on the Xbox 360, then pick it up and give it a go. There are worse ways to spend your time, which brings me on to the next title. The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing III is an action RPG that plays a lot like games such as Diablo and The Path of Exile for those familiar with those titles. As the title suggests, this is the third game in the series, and as such there are quite a few references in the game that I did not quite follow as I had not played the previous games. I have to admit my knowledge of Van Helsing only goes as far as the 2004 Hugh Jackman film of the same name. As such, I was pretty surprised when starting the game and finding there were a number of player classes to play. The options range from a sword and shield toting defender-like character, a mage-like character and more. As the only one that gave me any sense of the movie character Van Helsing was the bounty hunter, I went with that one. As stated, the game uses the tried and trusted top-down action RPG view just like Baldur's Gate, Diablo and many other games that came before it. The main difference in this game for me is everything seems to be immediate and present. The quests you gather and complete all seem to be right next to one another. There is a skill system and loot system that is often found in an ARPG, however they seem to get far too complex and intricate too early on. You need to manage your character and their apparition type companion, ensuring they are being granted new skills and abilities each time they level up, which seems to happen very often at the start of the game. This should give you a sense of increasing power, but unfortunately it does not. The game is incredibly punishing from the start, so much so that I feel it should have been called the Incredible Mutilation of Van Helsing III instead. The abilities granted to the bounty hunter seem very weak and annoying to use. You have a lock-on ability that requires you to stand still for 3 seconds locked onto an enemy to fire it and get its full amount of damage. This is pretty much impossible to do. Very quickly and often you are overwhelmed by enemies, and standing still for 1 second, let alone 3 seconds, is very likely going to get you killed. I found myself needing to run around in circles most of the time away from enemies, taking pot shots here and there to apply poisons to them and whittle them down while running away. If my companion would get aggro on them, I would stop and try to get a powerful shot or two off before they focused on me and I had to run again. When you do finally manage to defeat the enemies in the room, the game simply moves on to the next part so fast without any mention of the difficult amount of abuse you've just received. Initially, when you are defeated in the starting area, you could choose to pay gold to revive on the spot or revive at the last checkpoint for free. Later on, the free option is removed while out in the field, and the only way to revive for free is to return back to your secret base, which, seeing as I just mentioned it, let's take a look at the secret base. This area is very much like a safe hub in Diablo. Here you store some of the enemies that you have defeated and captured around to gather information from. There are stores that you can buy and sell from, enchanters that can, well, enchant your gear, and a storage bank, and so on. You can teleport back here when out in the field and then teleport back to your previous location from the central teleportation device. As stated, this game is very punishing. I was playing the game on normal, which is only one up from casual, with 3 more difficulties to choose from above that. The game also has a hardcore mode in which death is permanent, and when you die, not if, when, you will need to start the game over. As normal was a bridge too far for me, I plant myself firmly in the filthy casual category when it comes to this game. I have no idea how people can play it on harder difficulties and cannot fathom how it is possible to play it on hardcore. After playing for an hour or so, I simply gave up. I was defeated very easily when confronted by the hordes of enemies. Trying to run from them and pick them off would often result in me running into even more enemies and eventually having way too many to deal with. I found this more frustrating than anything else and did not even feel satisfied when I finally managed to clear a group of enemies that had been plaguing me. It's not like games like Cuphead, which fill you with satisfaction when you finally defeat a boss or complete a run and gun level. It's just punishing for the sake of being punishing. The game tries to add a comedy element to it, which just seems to get repetitive early on.
Right one.
This is where dramatic music comes in, and our hero with a sweaty forehead hesitates. And this is where I just grab the capacitor and insert it there.
Katarina! Word. I learned my lesson. I won't touch the gong.
Then it's my turn to hit it. Get ready.
Diving headfirst into obvious traps seems like an unhealthy habit.
There are also cultural references thrown in here and there for no apparent reason.
I'm a daywalker, just like your friend over there, with one small difference. I slay vampires. I'm also an expert swordsman who...
Oh, this is the bloodsucker who was sent to prison by the city council for petty scams and not paying taxes.
As far as I can tell, that was a reference to the Vampire Hunter Blade. Why he was there or why they were referencing that character is beyond me though. The game has 56 achievements to collect for a total of 1000 gamer points. I usually reference trueachievements.com to get an estimated time to complete these for the games I overview. However, at the time of this recording, there is only one player from that community that is tracking the game and no one has yet completed it. Overall, I feel this is not at all a good game to jump into this franchise. The story seems to reference the previous games without granting any backstory, so I feel you would need to play the other two titles first to understand what is going on exactly. There are clearly fans of the franchise, so you cannot beat the free price for the title granted by your gold subscription. For anyone else, by all means give it a go if you like, but I feel you will be better off starting with the first game and only playing this one if you get that far in the trilogy. If you have had a gold subscription running since or before the 1st of December 2015, there is a chance you have the first game in your library already. For me, the game just does not offer enough fun or sense of reward for the amount of effort required. I am completely okay with a game being overly difficult if the sense of reward afterwards feels adequate, but this game does not do that for me. As such, I cannot recommend it. Sorry to the fans. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, then give it a thumbs down. But please try to leave some constructive feedback in the comments below this video so that I can try to make more enjoyable content for you in the future. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe by clicking on the icon in the middle of this screen. To learn more about the channel, you can click the What is Games Done Wrongish video on the left, or you can visit my website at www.gamesdonewrongish.com. Thank you, and until the next time, goodbye.